Everybody, my name is Jazz Howland. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary East and the Shadow Minister for Finance. Another morning, another devastating Statistics Canada report exposing Mark Carney's illusions. Even the Bank of Canada admits that deficit spending by the government leads to higher inflation. And despite Mark Carney saying that he was a better money manager than Justin Trudeau, he doubled his deficit and not only gave Canadians the worst, but the second worst deficit in Canadian history outside of COVID, and is the only leader in the entire G20 to lead their country into a recession. Now, this Liberal inflationary crisis has real-life impacts. That's why we're seeing 2.2 million Canadians in a food bank, more insolvencies, and more delinquencies. Canadians are feeling this Liberal inflationary crisis when they're going to the grocery store, seeing higher prices. In fact, Mark Carney gave Canadians one of the worst food inflations in the entire G7. And Pierre Poilievre was raising the alarm bells on this years ago, that government spending would lead to inflation. And if the Liberals had just taken that lesson, Canadians would not be in the position that they're in today. And today, our Conservative team is out here in BC with our leader, Pierre Poilievre, talking to families, businesses, fishermen, workers, ones that are impacted by this the failed Liberal policies that led to this cost of living crisis. We're here to give them hope that under a Pierre Poilievre government, we will reduce taxes so that we can create a better business environment and give Canadians a hope and keep more money in their pockets. We will unblock our resources by getting rid of the Liberal anti-development laws that have landlocked our resources so that we can create good Canadian jobs and powerful paychecks and create the good economy that Canadians need. We will cap government spending and get rid of Liberal waste so that we can keep down inflation and interest rates. We will bring back that Canada under a Pierre Poilievre government that is safe and affordable, and bring back that Canadian dream that Canadians deserve. So it is my honour and privilege to introduce to you our Conservative leader and the next Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Jazz. Merci tout le monde. La raison pour laquelle les conservateurs se battent chaque jour, c'est pour réinstaurer la promesse du Canada, que chacun qui travaille fort peut avoir une maison abordable, de l'épicerie abordable, de l'essence abordable, dans un pays abordable. Malheureusement, après 11 ans des libéraux, tout coûte plus cher, et les Canadiens peuvent plus payer leurs factures. Mark Carney a promis de renverser toutes les politiques qu'il avait supportées et que son parti avait mis en place pendant une décennie. C'était une illusion. Et aujourd'hui, on voit le coût de Mark Carney. Avec la pire inflation alimentaire dans le G7, les Canadiens paient plus à l'épicerie que toutes les autres nations du G7. Ça, c'est juste quelques semaines après qu'on a appris que M. Carney a créé la seule récession dans le G7. On n'a pas besoin d'autres excuses encore pour la récession et l'inflation libérale de Mark Carney. On a besoin des résultats abordables chez nous. Le prix de pétrole mondialement devrait avancer notre économie parce que nous avons des ressources. Notre économie devrait être en train de grandir rapidement. Mais malheureusement, les politiques libérales, les taxes de carbone industriel, les dépenses inflationnistes, le doublement du déficit par M. Carney ont tous augmenté le coût de la vie et nous a donné la pire inflation alimentaire du G7. On n'a pas besoin des excuses. On a besoin des épiceries abordables. On n'a pas besoin des excuses. On a besoin de l'essence abordable. On n'a pas besoin des excuses. On a besoin de logements et des maisons abordables. Nous, les conservateurs, nous allons continuer de nous battre pour une vie abordable en éliminant la taxe carbone industrielle, en éliminant toutes les taxes sur l'essence pour le reste de l'année, pour vous économiser 1 200 $, en éliminant toutes les taxes pour la construction de logements et en coupant La bureaucratie, les consultants, la BS coopérative, l'aide à l'étranger, les bonbons pour les faux réfugiés afin de réduire les déficits, les taxes et l'inflation. C'est comme ça que nous allons être abordables chez nous, sécuritaires chez nous et autosuffisants chez nous. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much to Shadow Minister Jas Halan for being here today. We are in this business to bring back the promise of Canada, of a country that is affordable here at home, so people can afford food, homes, gas, and cars here at home. They used to. But after a decade of Liberals, people can't afford to live in Canada. Housing costs are the worst in the G7. Food prices have driven about 2.2 million people to food banks, and people are forced to cut back on their grocery bills. A quarter of all Canadians have run out of food at home while running out of money in their bank to go and buy more. And a quarter of our food banks have actually run out of food at various times in the year gone by, meaning people have shown up to learn that there's nothing there for them to eat. Now, Mark Carney promised that he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. That was over a year ago. He then went on to say that affordability was the best that it had been in a decade. It was all an illusion. After a year and a half of Mark Carney, it's more costs, more taxes, more debt, more of the same. Today we learned that Mark Carney has given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. Only days after we learned that he gave us the only recession in the G7. All the other G7 countries have to deal with wars and tariffs and energy prices, and yet none of them are in recession, and none of them have the rising food prices that we have here under Mark Carney. So, Mr. Carney, my message to you is we do not need any more excuses. You promised affordable food. You promised a growing economy. You delivered a recession and inflation. You did this, Mr. Carney, with your policy of doubling the deficit that Justin Trudeau left behind, thus bidding up the cost of everything, by increasing the industrial carbon tax 6 times higher than the one Trudeau left behind, a tax that drives up the cost of everything that goes into building a home or growing food. You continue to tax gas, and your policies, your Liberal policies, continue to drive down the value of our dollar, and therefore the cost of everything goes up. After a year of Mark Carney, it is more costs, more taxes, more debt, more of the same. He is just another Liberal. We need the Liberals to immediately reverse all of the policies that they brought in that have driven up the cost of living. And today we got news that Mark Carney wants to make your life even more expensive. He's announced that he's going to increase the cost of the long-promised Alto rail fantasy, already costing the average family $8,000 in additional and new taxes in order to fund a train that will not be built for 15 years and that 95% of Canadians will not use if it ever does get built. In the meantime, the Carney Liberals plan to spend $5 billion over the next 5 years, not building the train, just planning and studying this costly project that will drive up your taxes and inflation. We need affordable life, affordable government, and an affordable future. And that's why Conservatives have real, tangible solutions to make your life affordable and bring costs down. Let's cut the bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, handouts to fake and phony refugees, get rid of the corporate welfare and bailouts like the condo bailout that Carney's promising, and bring down deficits, inflation, and taxes. Speaking of taxes, let's take all taxes off gas for the rest of the year, saving the average family $20 to fill up and $1,200 between now and Christmas. Let's get rid of the industrial carbon tax to lower the cost of concrete, cement, fertilizer, farm equipment, oil and gas, and other essentials that drive the cost of living. Let's unblock our resources by repealing anti-development and anti-pipeline laws so that we can sell more and boost our dollar, thus increasing the purchasing power of Canadians. That is how we're going to make our country affordable again, because you deserve to fill up your grocery cart without emptying your bank account, buying the foods that you enjoy, nutritious, delicious meals on the dinner table every single night, meat and potatoes for everybody. Let's unblock home building so that because you deserve affordable homes with affordable mortgage payments, affordable rent. Let's get rid of all taxes on gas because you deserve to fill up your tank without emptying your wallet. That's the Conservative mission, a country that is affordable here, affordable for you, and affordable always. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Please identify yourself and your outlet. One question, one follow-up each.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Sarah McDonald, Global News.
Good morning.
First of all, you've been in BC for the last few days. You've been speaking with British Columbians about a lot of issues impacting them, a lot of really interesting talking points in BC as well, with the dichotomy with our NDP government provincially, partnerships with Carney on a federal level. What have you been hearing from British Columbians specifically during your time on the ground over the past few days?
British Columbians cannot afford the Liberals and NDP. The cost of living is skyrocketing under the Carney Liberals. People are saying that they walk into the grocery store and they walk out anxious, and they've paid $300 for a few measly bags of groceries that will barely feed their family for a week. We see people lined up at food banks. We see homelessness on our streets. The Carney Liberal recession is hitting British Columbia harder than perhaps anywhere else in Canada, and they want someone to fight for them, fight for an affordable economy, a strong economy, and a growing economy, and that's what I've pledged to do.
Thank you. Follow-up specifically on the grocery prices. We've heard talk about the corporate entities being held to account. Does more need to be done on that front from the federal government when it comes to, I mean, if you want to call it price fixing or what have you? Every Canadian who's gone into a grocery store has seen the price of produce, has gone to a comparable store, and they're rising everywhere. Does something need to be done on a larger scale in terms of why we're seeing these prices, why every Canadian is seeing these rising prices in the grocery stores?
Well, I think we have to, it's a very good question. We have to ask, why is it that food prices are rising so much faster in Canada than they are in any other G7 country? Obviously, our Liberal government is doing something that is making things worse than any other country. We can't blame global factors when the prices rise faster here than anywhere else. So our practical suggestions include getting rid of the industrial carbon tax that raises farming, food processing, and fertilizer prices. Let's unblock our resources so that we can produce more of the fertilizer and the other inputs here in this country. And let's open up real competition so that the grocers have to fight for the customers by driving prices down, because you deserve affordable food. Thank you.
Hi, Jared Yergo here with Sitka Media. So on the Alto line, sometimes to build for the future, you need to spend a little bit of money. So I'm wondering, are you against high-speed rail in Canada as a concept, or just the way that this project has gone about?
First of all, the Liberals are promising to spend $5 billion over the next year just to study the idea, not to build a single inch of rail. A bunch of Liberal insiders, activists, lawyers will get rich, making single moms, seniors, and small businesses poor. If this project ever gets built, it will be 15 years from now, and it will cost every family $8,000 in higher taxes. 95% of Canadians will never even use it, and it won't take a single car off the road. It will just take passengers out of airplanes that don't need subsidies. So let's focus on bringing down the cost of living. I would rather, here's my counter proposal. People say, what's your idea? My idea is let's improve the transportation of every single Canadian by taking the GST off used cars. Right now, you're paying double, triple, and even quadruple taxes on the same vehicle as it's sold and resold. Conservatives would use the Alto research money to take taxes off used cars so that you can save $2,000 on your next vehicle. That would give a real, tangible savings to real people rather than forcing British Columbians to spend $8,000 per family on a train they will never get to use and from which they will never benefit, even if it ever gets built.
And a couple days ago, you brought up a story of a woman you met who felt safer in Mexico than in
Yes.
Vancouver. And I've been speaking with people from all over the world who are in Vancouver, and they feel pretty safe. Now, obviously, the plural of anecdote is not data, but what the data shows is that Mexico is far more unsafe than Vancouver. So I'm just wondering if you could tell me why you chose to bring up that particular anecdote at this time.
Because it was a story that a lady told me at the airport. And I'm not, there are a lot of women who frankly feel very unsafe in Canada today. There are cases, and we've had women who've testified before parliamentary committees that they have left Canada because their partner, their violent partner, has been released from prison despite crime after crime after crime after crime. I give you the example of Bailey McCourt, a documented story from right here in British Columbia, where Liberal bail released her ex on bail even after he was convicted of serious offenses, and hours later he murdered her. So I think Liberal commentators online that tried to silence this lady that I met at the airport, frankly, they should be ashamed of themselves. And they have no business telling a woman that she should not demand safety in her community. There are women right across this country who do not feel safe, who are afraid to go on transit, who are afraid that a violent ex is being released yet again under Liberal laws, and then these Liberals expect me to be quiet about it. I'm not going to be quiet about it. My job is to fight for the safety of women and men right across this country, and that is going to require a wholesale repeal of all the Liberal crime laws that have unleashed chaos on the streets of Vancouver and right across this country.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the teleconference line.
Marco Bigliotti with iPolitics, please go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking our questions. I want to go back to the condo discussion. I was just wondering, what solutions would you propose as an alternative to what the Prime Minister is putting forward? I know that during the campaign, you proposed cutting the sales tax on all new homes. That's something that we've seen some, initial progress in Ontario with that deal that the Fed struck with the province. Would you like to see that apply on a national level, or is there anything else further you would like to do to address the kind of glut of condo sales we've seen in BC and other jurisdictions?
So first, the answer to your question is yes, I want to see all taxes taken off home building. The sales taxes, and we need to incentivize municipalities and provinces to get rid of all of their home building taxes. Secondly, we need to insist that municipalities speed up permits and free up land to get more built very quickly, and my infrastructure policy would do that. We need to cut the bureaucracy, red tape, and taxes that are responsible for our high housing costs under the Liberals here in Canada. That is a real solution. What Mark Carney and the Liberals have done is they've inflated a housing bubble with too much money printing and immigration driving up demand, and too much red tape and taxes blocking supply. Having created the housing bubble and now bursting that bubble, now they want to come and bail out the bankers and developers who profited from it. And this is another example of a tiny club of Liberal elites, billionaires, and insiders getting rich by making hardworking Canadians poor. So I'm calling for the Carney condo bailout of developers and bankers to be cancelled. As for the condos themselves, you know what the solution is for them to become affordable? The developers need to lower the sale price to a level that people can afford to pay. And when they do that, those condos will sell. And some say, well, the condos, the developers will lose money. Somebody's going to lose money. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be the waitress and the welder paying for it on their taxes so Carney can give a tax-funded bailout? Or is it going to be the developers and bankers who who were trying to profit off of the bubble in the first place. Sorry, you had a follow-up there? Oh. Sorry, we have a technical issue here. I'm not hearing the audio. I don't hear anything. It's a muffled voice here, I'm afraid, sir. I don't know if there's anyone else who wants to call in another way. You can call the cameraman or Mal. Take it away, my friend.
Anybody else on the teleconference line?
Okay. Murphy's Law. Does anyone else want to take one here and we can wrap it up?
I'll ask one more. Is that okay?
Sure, please.
I just don't know if you want to speak on this. Obviously, there's a lot going on internationally with the Strait of Hormuz, Iran, United States. The trickle-down effect is going to impact us as Canadians. I just want to know if you have anything to speak on in that regard today. Also, how that impacts inflation here in Canada, rising prices everywhere.
Look, it's a fair question, but you know, we've had enough excuses from the Liberals. At the end of the day, our economy, frankly, should be booming right now because of high commodity prices. We are a resource economy, and if we didn't have a Liberal government blocking our resources, overtaxing Canadians and drowning us in bureaucracy, then our economy would be roaring strong due to higher commodity prices like oil. When the Conservatives were power back in 2014, we had 2 wars in the Middle East, one in Ukraine, and oil prices that were about 30% higher than they are today, and Canadians were able to afford a good life, and we were not in a recession. So it's time for Mark Carney to stop making excuses for the fact that he has created the only recession in the G7, the only food price inflation that is this high in the G7. If it were really global factors, then why is it that no other G7 country is in recession, no other G7 country is paying the food inflation that Canadians are forced to pay? The answer is that the Carney Liberals continue inflationary policies that drive up costs here at home. We need to reverse those policies and make Canada affordable.
Sorry, my colleague in Ottawa has just sent me a question for
No
you.
problem.
Tim Hodgson is expected to make a nuclear energy announcement later today, which will reportedly build up to 10 new reactors beginning construction in 2035. Will you support the federal government's effort to boost up Canada's nuclear energy exports?
So just a correction of the question from your colleague in Ottawa. An announcement will not build anything. And this is the problem we've had with the Liberals, or the Carney Liberals, is their promises are being reported on as results. And so far, there have been no results. The Carney Liberals promised they would double home building. Home building has dropped. They promised they would deliver affordable food. Food prices are rising the fastest in the G7. So the fact that Liberals are again making big, grandiose promises is not an achievement. We need to move from announcements to results. It's been a year and a half of Mark Carney, and it's been 11 years of Liberals, and they've not gotten anything built. So we will judge the Liberals based on the real results, not based on their latest promises. Our approach is to repeal the anti-development laws, depoliticize the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, stop the Liberal obstacles so that we can actually produce more affordable and abundant electricity and other forms of energy across the country. But the focus has to be on results, not yet more promises and illusions.
Thank you. This concludes today's press conference.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.